Yeah. Oh, instant flame. So whoever you were in the comments who corrected me on that and said you missed off char cloth, thank you so much. Hi, it's Todd here from Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler, and we are having another look at ancient fire arrows. So the kind of arrows that the Romans and the ancient Greeks might have used, because they did use them, we absolutely know that, but we don't know how they made them. And I've done a recent film where I laid out everything that they might have used, and I tested it and I tried it in different formulations, showed you what I was doing, explaining what worked, what didn't work, and it worked. However, I made a couple of very glaring mistakes, and that is what I'm going to have a look at today. And the first mistake that I made was very kindly and politely pointed out by somebody in the comments. I did not include char cloth. Now, char cloth is a very interesting substance. It's basically where you get a natural fibre, like cotton, like linen, and you heat it up in a sealed container to create basically what's like a fabric charcoal, and it takes sparks so easily. Here is a pile of cotton fibre that I've carburized. I've turned it into char cloth, and I have a little filament here. Now watch this. Can't see very much yet. And now you can see how easily the cotton fibre has picked up those lights. The tiniest little spark. And that is what we want to light the next part. So you can see from that demonstration, the tiniest little ember, the tiniest little spark will grow with char cloth, and it will bring it up to a big fat burning ember. So whoever you were in the comments who corrected me on that and said you missed off char cloth, thank you so much. It was a staggeringly short-sighted admission. I should have done it. So now we have the back of our arrow loaded up with char cloth. Now that in itself will create an ember, and that might set something on fire, but it's nice to actually deliver flames to the target, something a bit spicier. So we need a way of getting the ignition source from the ember into flames relatively easily. And the way of doing that is sulfur impregnated fabric. But before we go on, note that I'm wearing an Arrows vs Armour 3 t-shirt. We filmed it last weekend. 7 heavyweight archers, 120 to 160 pound bows, shooting authentic arrows at an armoured soldier from 1450. That film will be out in about December. Sign up to the newsletter, subscribe to this channel, get notifications of when it's coming, because you do not want to miss that. Anyway, let's go and look at our sulfur demo. We have a pile of our char cloth underneath and a tiny little strip of sulfur bandage on top. Let's just have a look at that and see what happens. Lights. There we go. The sulfur ignites. So it's not a massively exciting flame, but it's definitely there. And we can then use that flame to do something else. You can see how easily the sulfur light, but the flame it gives is subtle, it's not big, it's not sustained, it's not prolonged. So on this arrow now, we have a big wodge of char cloth at the back. That will take the initial ignition source really easily. It will then turn to an ember. It will transfer that ember into a flame on the sulfur. So around the fire arrow here, we have got some sulfur bandage. But the flame from sulfur is not massive, and what we want is a much more sustained burn. So over the top, we have wrapped some waxed cord. The cord is to hold it all together, but the wax is to provide the energy for the burn. And hopefully, the sulfur will transfer its flame onto the wax, and we'll get a bigger flame. So again, we have a pile of char cloth, a little strip of sulfur bandage over the top, and a little bit of waxed cotton cord. Now the ember will not have enough energy to turn the wax cord into fire, because the wax will melt and it'll effectively put the ember out around it before it even has a chance to light. But let's see what happens if we do it this way around. So the ember's going, so we're getting a bit more heat in the ember now, and it just begins to boil and change the colour of the sulfur. At the moment, plan A is not going so well. I might try this again with a bit of raw cotton fibre mixed in with the char cloth, because the raw cotton fibre will hold more energy. This time I've wrapped a little bit of raw cotton around the char cloth. Let's see what that does. Lights. Got ignition on the char cloth, obviously. And the char cloth will light the cotton very easily, and the cotton smoulders very well. It's kind of tricky to do this, it must be said. The other thing, I'm doing this statically. Now, it might behave really quite differently once it whizzes through the air and lands. So at the moment, what I'm trying to do is get something I can believe in before actually testing it. And there we go. I can believe in that. So the sulfur's gone, and we're picking up on the wax string now. And there we go. So that is what I wanted. But doing it once is not enough, so let's do it another couple of times, make sure it looks like it's going to work, and then we'll go for it. Let's try that with 2 more attempts. And lights. Again, this is raw cotton mixed in with the char cloth. Little strip of sulfur bandage over the top and a little bit of wax cordage. Oh, this one's tipping over, I don't want it to. It takes a little bit of time, this. So I think this is looking promising, but still, it doesn't just spontaneously leap into flame. So I'm giving a little breath of air as if it's out in the wind. There's one. No. And the second one's failed. Oh, how annoying. So that was really annoying. We've got 2 out of 3 to go. I think it might behave differently if it's shot, so I'm going to give it a go anyway, and cross those fingers. I've shown you the thinking behind how I'm going to construct it, the various parts, what each bit does. But there's also going to be a big change here in how I construct it. Because the last time I made a film about this, I was lighting the charge from the front. But of course what that means is as the arrow hits the target, the charge tends to slide forward, the ember, the ignition, the very bit that you want to stay alight is whacked up against the board. Somebody very carefully pointed out in the notes, why not light it from the back? Well, why not light it from the back? I just hadn't considered it. I thought, well, light it from the front, didn't give it any more thought. Stupid. So, let's light it from the back this time. Waxy cotton. So this provides a fuel source. So I've got some of that there now, but I want that away from the ember because as the wax melts, it's still a liquid at that point and it will tend to smother, to put out, dampen the ember. So I'm just going to mix now some of my char cotton and some raw cotton to create a nice dense wodge of it. That's going to go over the back, and then over the top of that I'm going to wrap some sulfur bandage. So that holds it all together. And now I'm just going to tie that down with a bit of waxed cord. So that will hopefully take the flame from the sulfur on the bandage and burn long enough it melts and wicks out that big wodge of cotton and wax I put at the beginning. But I am not, please note, winding that wax back to where all of the cotton is. Because if I do that, when it heats up, when it melts, the wax in there stands a chance of putting the ember out. So what we have at the back are char cotton and raw cotton mixed, waxy cotton at the front. Over the top, we've wrapped a sulfur impregnated bandage, and then just the front part we've held down with a waxy cotton string. It's time to shoot it. Let's light up the back of this, see how we go. So we have a nice ember going. A little bit of fire, but that will go out on launch anyway. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it's hard to see in this light, but we've definitely got fire. Yeah, sulfur as well, it's pretty noxious when it burns, be careful with it. But the sulfur has lit beautifully. Hasn't taken on the wax yet. Now the thing about this wind is it helps with the ignition of the sulfur, but actually it also puts out, we've got a nice flame here, and the wax is taking now. So actually that's a lot faster than my last ones. But what's interesting about the wind, of course, is it helps with picking up onto the sulfur, but then a very small and delicate flame it can blow out. I don't know. I don't know. I guess houses with wind holes in it. Windows, windy holes. Anyway, we have fire. Let's just see if there's too much wind. Yeah, fabulous. So it's now picking up, it's now melting the wax that's inside the body. Brilliant. And that was quick. The ones I was doing before might take up to 10 minutes before they burst into flame, which has its advantages too. This one looked to be about sort of 30, 60 seconds before there was a reasonably convincing flame on it. So I would rate shot number 1 a great success. So we probably got another 5 or 6 minutes of burning there. It's like a garden flare, all that wax and fibre in there. So that's burning away beautifully now. We're just going to leave it to time out and we'll find out how long it burns for, but I'm going to take the shaft away first. Great. And that's it. So that burned for quite a long time, and a long sustained flame is what you want to ignite other things. But until we do it a second time successfully, that's just interesting. Well, that was brilliant. So we're going to make another. Now, what you need to know is that these are not like later fire arrows from sort of about 1400. I've done great films on those, but they use oxidizers. They had oxidizers, but they weren't using them for fire arrows as far as we can tell. First known use that I can put my finger on is sort of mid-14th century. But those later fire arrows burnt in a very different way. So they had saltpeter, sulfur, pitch, various other things in them, possibly arsenic. They seem to quite like putting that in them. These ones, we've kept it with basic technology. Let's go for a second shot. Yeah. Oh, instant flame. Let's go and check it out. Well, hit right between the planks, but I don't suppose that matters. I'm going to pull the shaft out. That's taken again. Brilliant! Interestingly enough, this timber's a bit wet, so it's not going to go up anyway. But landing between the cracks of boards gives you a maximum surface area. It gives you somewhere for the flame to funnel up. That's a really good place for a fire arrow to land. It's just picking up the wax a little bit. The danger now is that the wind blows it out before it's really got going. But I guess inside a thatch, inside a room, less of an issue. So it's fighting the wind and the rain a little bit. Oh, and we've lost it. We've lost it. But it's quite windy. Inside a room, probably not so much of an issue. So I am going to call that one a success. We're going to go for a third when the rain breaks. So we've got a bit of ember in there. Oh, there we go. That was just a tiny puff of wind and we got fire. So I don't know, whatever that was, 20 seconds. It's still a delicate fire until the waxy cotton takes, which it's just beginning to do now. So that's 3 out of 3. And interestingly, the move from ember to actual flame was much faster than on previous designs. I'll say it again, having a delayed reaction of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, is not actually necessarily a bad thing. And this one spontaneously comes back after a few seconds. Absolutely brilliant. So to conclude, the technology is simple. So they had sulfur, they had cotton, they had beeswax. That's all that is in here. You light it from the back. You can light it with a brazier because of the char cotton. It just takes a spark very easily. I was using blowtorch for ease. But when the ember starts, it doesn't go out. When it lands, obviously, as we all know, you don't disturb a fire when it's going because, you know, then you can break the sort of the hot element of the fire. But in the case of this one, any tiny little sparks remaining will pick up on the char cloth and it will kick it all into life again. And then when that char cloth is hot enough, it ignites the sulfur. When the sulfur is burning and it moves forward, that can then melt and ignite the wax. And then when you've got the waxy string there that's lit on the outside, that lights the main waxy fibrous charge inside. I made it fibrous so it doesn't just fall off and break apart. So that's it. Can I say that our ancient forefathers, the ancient Greeks, the Romans, made their fire arrows like this? No, I can't. But I can say that they could have done. And this technology I've shown to work is straightforward, it's logical, it's available to them. They could have done it. So if you've enjoyed this film, subscribe. Sign up to the newsletter for our website, because if you like this kind of thing, you will love what we do there. Loads of fantastic medieval and ancient weapons. And if you want to help out more, the Patreon's always very welcome. But don't forget, Arrows vs Armour 3 is going to be coming to you in December, so do not miss that. But there was one other comment in these films that I want to have a look at. So I'm going to come back, not today, but another time, for a third version of ancient fire arrows. And it might be the simplest of the lot. See ya.